Good morning, back in the hangar bright and early this morning. Beautiful weather, so I'm gonna fly to work again today. It's Friday. I've got this little folding bicycle I picked up not too long ago that's been working out really great for me to ride that last 4 miles or so from the airport to work. So I know ground transportation for private pilots can sometimes be a tricky thing to handle, so I think that's what we'll talk about today. My last video had a fantastic response. I went from 200 to over 500 subscribers as of this morning in just under 5 days. So if you like what I'm doing, I really appreciate those subscriptions. Hoping to get to 1,000, perhaps by the end of the month would be great.
Rolls, that one's up, that one's down, that one's up, that one's down, elevator up, down, full square, left, right, instruments, set to field elevation, oil temperatures already up over 100, oil pressure is 40, great, gas, fuel is on, carb heat's off, primer's in and locked, airplane stuff, trim is set for takeoff, doors off, seatbelt latch in the back, bicycle nice and secure, and run up. About a 50 RPM drop, about a 60 RPM drop, about a 20 or so RPM drop on the carburetor heat. Oil temperature and oil pressure both still good. Let's see if we got full power. We got about 2150. Perfect. Means we're ready to go. Let the engine warm up just a little bit. So, yeah, I think ground transportation becomes kind of a problem for a lot of pilots who fly general aviation airplanes. I've heard of many flights even that get scrubbed because a pilot can't figure out how to get to their final destination after they land. Their final destination might be 5 or 10 miles from the airport. I think there's some options that maybe not everybody thinks of, so let's go through those. I've got 4 groups of options to discuss. The first one is, do you even need ground transportation? There are some ways you might be able to get around it. The second is airport and FBO provided options. The third is a rideshare option, and the fourth would be ways you can bring your own transportation, like this bicycle I've got in the back. Looks like engine's nice and warm, so we'll go ahead and take off. When my engine fails today, it'll be straight ahead or left, just like it always is off runway 17. There's clear fields on the left side, but there are power transmission lines dead ahead. So I always make a pretty immediate left at the end of the runway. Everything looks good, headset is on. Halting traffic, champ number 1476 Echo, taking off runway 17, southbound, halting. Tails up. There's 40. Accelerate 50. 50 is VX, best rate of climb, best angle of climb to get us over trees. We're over the tree obstacles. We accelerate 60, which is best rate of climb. Out of runway, turn left. And we'll stay to the left of these power transmission lines. There's a tower up here as well. We'll go ahead and keep on following to the left side of these power transmission lines until we're clear of the tower. Then we can head south. And we can start headed towards south-southwest. So the first category of ground transportation is, do you even need it? If you are traveling alone or even as a couple and you don't mind roughing it a little bit, and all your stop is an overnight or an extended cross-country or a weather diversion stop or something like that, you might not even need ground transportation. A lot of small county airports and even larger FBOs, if you ask, have what they call crew rooms and crew restrooms. And I have spent several nights in these restrooms on couches or recliners, whatever, in these small town airport terminals. And don't even have to leave the airport when the weather clears up or the next morning to continue the trip. I'm already at the airport. It's really no big deal. So it's worth calling ahead to the airport manager or the FBO manager to see if there's a crew room that is available for overnight rest. The second one, particularly in the summertime air show season, particularly Oshkosh, is a lot of these smaller county airports, they'll let you camp on the field as well. So if you've already got your tent and stuff, you're headed to Oshkosh or Sun and Fun, it's worth giving that airport manager a call. Now this is typically going to be easier at smaller county airports, and seeing if they'll let you pitch the tent, by the airplane in the grass. A lot of times they will, sometimes they won't, but it's worth a try. And then the last reason you might not even need ground transportation is if there's a hotel within walking distance. In your trip planning, if you are planning an overnight, then consider if there's a hotel close by. Use Google Maps to help plan your trip, and you might be able to find several hotels close by, and maybe just choose the airport you stop at on that extended cross country to allow for a hotel that's close, an airport that has a hotel close by. A lot of times it's going to be worth paying a little bit more for your fuel if you don't have to pay for ground transportation. For example, on my trip to Oshkosh this year, because I'm flying Bess, hopefully, and she's slow, I want to arrive at the air show very early in the morning, which means I need to overnight somewhere close by before continuing the next morning. Right now I'm planning on overnighting in Middleton, Wisconsin, because there is 2 or 3 hotels within easy walking distance from the Middleton airport. The next category would be airport and FBO options. So a lot of small town airports and a lot of FBOs have what they call courtesy cars or crew cars. So if your final destination is just 2 or 3 hours errand, or you just need to go out to get something to eat or a part for something or whatever, a lot of times there's a crew car that's available at no charge that you can ask the airport manager about. It's always best to call ahead for that and bring it back full of fuel. The next option that works out great that we've used a few times is an FBO shuttle. A lot of times if you fly into a larger airport that's got a more major FBO, they'll have a shuttle that they'll take you to a nearby hotel inn, and then the next morning or whenever you're ready to go back, come back and pick you up. And then you don't have to drive at all. And then finally, rental cars. On-site or FBO based. So if you're flying into an airport that has an FBO, you can almost always call that FBO and ask them to arrange a car for you. Generally, that's not the cheapest solution in the world, because that is a service that's being provided to you, and there's a car being delivered to the airport. But it is very convenient. But as far as rental car goes, you could also consider, if you're flying into a major metropolitan area, consider flying into the major airport that has airline service to that metropolitan area. I think those are airports most of us normally avoid. And particularly in Bess, this isn't quite relevant, because most of those airports are at least Class Charlie, not Class Bravo, which a non-electric airplane cannot enter. But when I fly airplanes that are equipped, a lot of times that can be a good option. For example, Oklahoma City, Will Rogers is the favorite airport for my wife and I to fly into when we have to go to Oklahoma and Oklahoma City. Even though there's a lot of smaller satellite airports around there, there's one particular FBO there at OKC that doesn't charge any landing fees, no ramp fees. The fuel price is reasonable, and they all but roll out the red carpet for you. It treats you just like, we've flown in a Cherokee, and they treat you like you're a Citation. So it's worth it to call around, because when you're able to get to these major airports, if it makes sense financially, you are right there on site with some of the cheapest rental cars in that city at the airport that is serviced by the airlines. The next, probably most popular option would be rideshare, such as Uber or Lyft. I keep both apps on my phone when I'm going somewhere because, for some reason, Uber and Lyft tend to, one of them's cheaper always, and it goes back and forth. And I've seen pretty large discrepancies on the same trip between the two. So it's worth checking both before continuing on. But that can be a great option. It's relatively inexpensive, and they come pick you up. Sometimes you have to wait a little while. Depends on the airport, and some airports in rural areas, you're just not going to be able to find one. So just keep that in mind. It's worth it to call the airport manager and ask if it's a rural area. Hey, how's the Uber service, or is there a taxi service? Things like that. Then my last category of options is bring your transportation with you, which is what I'm doing here on my way to work. I picked up this Brompton folding bicycle, and I'm really, really pleased with this bicycle. It folds up to less than 2 feet by 2 feet by 1 foot, and it fits really nicely in my back seat. I strap it in nice and secure so it can't get tangled in any controls. It's somewhere around 26 pounds, which is somewhat lightweight for a folding bicycle, and it rides really nicely. It's incredibly well made. I bought this one used, and I got a reasonably good deal on it. They are a little bit spendy new. I think they start around the $1,100 mark. So certainly not a cheap option, but for me, when I'm flying to work multiple times per week, it really makes sense for me to have something where I can just pull it out of the airplane and ride to work. There are, if you have a little bit of extra space in your airplane, there are some options that are electric bicycles, such as the electric XP Lite. I'll put a link down below, and that's somewhere around 45 to 50 pounds. It weighs a little bit more, and it folds up not quite as small, but it is an e-bike. If you would like to go that route, it would certainly. If I had further to go than the 4 miles I have to, I would certainly be considering an e-bike. And Brompton does have e-bikes. They are quite expensive. Aside from bicycles, there's also e-scooters. Those kick scooters, you can kind of see them sitting on the sides of the streets in some major cities that you can rent. You can buy those as well. It's the length that is a problem for me here in Best. It'd be hard to get one in. But if you've got a larger airplane, a 172, 182 Cherokee, I think those could be a good option to slide into the baggage compartment. Just make sure you're paying attention to the folded size and that you can fit it wherever you're trying to fit it. There's also electric unicycles and things like one wheels that look really compelling to me because they are very compact and they're pretty quick. I guess I don't trust my coordination to ride one. Maybe one of these days I'll try one, but for now this Brompton I'm really enjoying. So I think bringing your own transportation, whether it's e-bike or bicycle, kind of works if your final destination is within 5 miles or so of the airport you're flying into. But when I get on the ground here at the airport, I will unfold the bike on camera maybe and kind of show how that works. I've been really pleased with it. I know a lot of people do fly with folding bikes. I haven't seen many people with the Brompton, which is I think the ideal solution for a Champ or a Cub, just because how small it will pack up. I don't think there's really anything quite like it. There might be a few Chinese clones now, I'm not sure. These Bromptons are made in London, which probably, and they're very well made. They're expensive, but I do think they're worth it. So I think that's my whole discussion on ground transportation options when you're flying around. I think for overnights on long extended cross countries, try to find a way where you don't need any ground transportation at all, either with an FBO shuttle or crew rooms or a hotel within walking distance. I think that is the ideal situation when it's an overnight and your final destination is in some event. If it's an event you need a car and it's like an afternoon, you could probably get by with a courtesy car. Call and ask. And if not, consider flying into a major airport that you can get rental cars easily and cheap. If not, if you're flying as a couple or more than 2 people, you could always consider getting the courtesy car, going into town to get a rental car, and then bringing the courtesy car back. And there are also peer-to-peer rentals like Turo that you might be able to convince somebody to drop a car off at the airport. Anyway, I'm going to listen to the weather and call up tower, and we'll see you on the ground.
Johnson County Executive Airport Information, Golf 1153 Zulu weather. Wind calm, visibility 10, sky clear below 12,000, temperature 21, dew point 17, altimeter 3000. Visual approach in use, landing and departing runway 18. Advise initial contact, give information, Golf.
It's a hands-off kind of morning. Just kind of making small corrections with my feet. What a beautiful morning. Executive Tower, good morning. Train number 1476 Echo, 5 miles northwest, inbound with Golf, non-electric airplane.
Yeah, 1476 Echo, exact tower straight in, runway 18, you're following Cessna traffic on a 2-mile final.
All right, straight in runway 18. I'll watch for that traffic. They'll be well ahead of me.
Champ 76 Echo, runway 18, clear to land.
Clear to land runway 18, 1476 Echo.
Traffic in sight, off your left side.
5 Richmond,
That's 5 Lima number 2, runway 18, cleared touch and go.